have to put a lot of pressure on the joint.
I decided to spar without us again in a year, so the clock was ticking.
For the wrist, get the takedown.
Not even a single person in my organization understood what I'm doing, and I consider these people my family. After training Aikido for more than a decade, I stepped into a ring for the first time, got my ass kicked, released a video recording of it happening, and now suddenly the whole Aikido world hates me while the MMA world loves me. Now, I did not see this coming. But as I said in the previous video, I was naively expecting that this video will prove to the Aikido world that it's not effective and that it will end the debate once and for all. Yet the fact that the Aikido people were still not willing to admit that, and regardless that they don't go out and test it out themselves, and the fact that many Aikidoka who did try to pressure test their Aikido failed in the process and had a similar experience to mine but never put it on record, all of that pushed me to continue to explore and question Aikido even more. Then one day I received a call from my Aikido sensei. During this call, he tried to play it cool, and he says that he likes that I'm questioning Aikido, that he likes the Aikido versus MMA video, but the more I spoke to him, the more I could feel that it's actually bugging him. Nevertheless, I continued to make videos questioning Aikido until one day I received a group message that shocked me in 3 different ways. But before we get to the juicy parts of the story, I want to introduce to you this video's sponsor. After spending nearly 2 months of day and night on editing the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship, all I wanted to do next was A. Go for a vacation, B. Go out to celebrate with my friends, C. Play video games. And guess what I chose to do? Of course I played video games. And today's video sponsor is, hey, what a surprise! It's a video game. And it's Raid Shadow Legend. You might have heard the name, but do you know it's completely free to play? One of the cool parts of the game is the impressive variety and depth of the scary looking badass champion, which there are more than 700 of. You can upgrade different champions from various factions and roles and discover their unique skills and synergies. Another thing I liked about the game is the clan system, which is the social aspect of the game. It's cool being a part of a clan, and in the game you can cooperate with other players to defeat the clan boss and other demon lords. The quality and polish of the game is admirable, with stunning graphics, an immersive story, a super in-depth RPG battle system, intense PvE boss fights, and the smooth gameplay. Raid also makes frequent updates, events, and rewards that keep you engaged and motivated. The latest one is the limited series Raid Call of the Arbiter. To celebrate it, Raid is adding some new characters from the series of champions. The first one is Artak, a mighty orc warlord who will be available to everyone for free. All that you have to do in order to get access to him is just log into Raid for 7 days between now and July 1st. If you haven't started playing Raid yet, this is the perfect opportunity. Use my link in the description or scan my QR code to get insane bonuses and an epic champion. And now, back to the story. Now, this group message was sent by my Aikido sensei to all of the instructors of the Aikido organization that I was a part of. And I was a part of that message too. And in that message, my sensei was explaining that he has concerns about me questioning Aikido and essentially giving me a hint that I should either stop doing it or I should quit the organization. Now, that's where the first shocking thing came up for me. It was the fact that I was part of that message and the message was talking about me, but I was not directly being addressed. That was weird in multiple ways. But the most upsetting part was that my sensei kept teaching me about conflict resolution ways, and he kept telling me that you always have to address the problem directly with the person that you have the problem with, that you should never go behind their backs or go in ways around them. And yet there's a message talking about me and not addressing me directly. I then tried to explain to everyone what I'm doing and why I'm doing this. I told them that this is a universal problem that Aikido has, that there's a lot of ego-centeredness, arrogance, and misunderstandings in Aikido that I want to address. That's where the second shocking thing came up for me. And that was no matter what I was explaining, all the other instructors, they just couldn't see what I'm talking about. And that was a huge surprise to me, because these things by now were evident to me that Aikido has these problems. Yet no matter how much I continued to explain, they just couldn't see what I'm talking about. Then finally I became so frustrated that I decided to leave the organization. And then it became clear that my sensei did not see this coming. And I think that primarily happened because this was not the first ultimatum that he gave me. In the past, he would give me other ultimatums, like the time when he said that I should quit doing BJJ because he thought it's gonna ruin my relationship with Aikido. And then although I still regret this to this day, back then I gave in to that ultimatum and I temporarily quit BJJ. Yet this time I was not ready to give in. And that's where the third shocking moment came up. And it was the fact that the people who I considered my family members, who I lived with and trained with for years, not even a single person wrote to me after I quit the organization. Initially I was not only hurt about that, but I was also confused. How could these people who are so dear to me not even write me a message asking how I'm doing? But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized what's probably happening behind this. And that was the fact that this Aikido organization was actually actually showing signs of a cult mentality. As it turns out that when you change your beliefs and leave a cult, that's actually a very usual symptom, that the other cult members, they disassociate from you entirely. Realizing this, I became so upset that I decided to put it on record and I made a video about quitting my Aikido organization. And you can see how upset I was during the making of it.
That whole sensei is the guru, he knows it all, you don't question the sensei, you're always inferior to the others. It's just, I could just go on and on and on. But the truth is more important than our reputation.
Yet when I published this video and started reading comments from it, I started realizing that this type of cult mentality is very common in many Aikido dojos and even in other martial arts. This pushed me to continue to question Aikido even more. But then I was still running my professional Aikido dojo, so I decided to go in a 50-50 way. During some days I was teaching Aikido as a good old Aikido instructor, and on the other days I was working to make my Aikido functional. To motivate myself even more, I offered to Tadas, the professional MMA fighter, that we should meet in a year and do an Aikido versus MMA sparring again. So the clock was ticking. During this time I interviewed various experts, ranging from a UFC fighter, a representative of a style of Aikido that is considered to be more functional, and other Aikidoka who already pressure tested and evolved their Aikido. And all of them gave me bits and pieces of advice how to improve my Aikido. During the year, I also kept pressure testing my Aikido myself. Yet once the time came to spar Tadas again, I was not feeling confident. As I was coming in to spar him, I was mainly going to rely on a strategy that was offered to me by a fellow pressure testing Aikidoka, Nathaniel, which was a mix of Aikido and wrestling blended in with some striking. Yet then I was still fresh and green in the world of combat sports, and I didn't realize that even if you have a tool that works, if you're trying to apply it on someone who's way better than you, it's not gonna work. And that was what essentially was happening. No matter how many times I tried the stuff that I learned by myself, Tadas kept shutting it down every single time. To make things worse, I was essentially trying to make a couple of things work over and over. So once Tadas saw me try it a couple of times, he already knew what to expect and he could shut me down right away. Due to the tension and stress, progressively I became more and more exhausted until eventually after 3 rounds, I decided that it's time to stop. And even though he gave me opportunities to try out my stuff, I still wasn't able to pull it off. And by the end of the experience, I was very upset with myself. Honestly, I was feeling even more down than after the first initial Aikido versus MMA video. And that's because I felt like I failed everyone. I knew that I'm still going to release this video no matter what. But then I thought everyone is going to see that I failed and I wasn't able to make Aikido work. And even though when I released the video, a lot of people were very supportive. They were still praising me for giving it a shot, for trying to make Aikido work, for questioning it. But I was still feeling upset with myself and I felt that something is still off. And that's when I remembered a conversation I had with Matt Thornton, the founder of a global MMA and BJJ organization, Straight Blast Gym. Matt went through a very similar journey like myself, but he did it decades ago in a different martial art known as Jeet Kune Do, the martial art of Bruce Lee. And even though Bruce Lee was all about functionality, ironically many of the Jeet Kune Do schools over the years started focusing way more on traditions and much less on functionality. And once Matt saw that, he started publicly questioning Jeet Kune Do, eventually quit it and became an expert in BJJ and MMA. During my talk with Matt, I asked him a question that I asked many different experts, and that was how I should make my Aikido functional. Now, during my talks with the other experts, they all had a very similar suggestion. They told me that on my free time I should practice a little bit of BJJ, a little bit of boxing, and that I should gradually try to blend my Aikido with other martial arts. But that was not Matt's answer. When I asked Matt how I should make my Aikido functional, he told me that I should simply quit Aikido. Now that caught me off guard. I mean, Aikido was my livelihood. I was running a professional dojo and that was where I was getting my money from. But then Matt continued to explain his reasoning. He told me that life is short and that I already wasted so many years practicing an ineffective martial art. And if my priority is to learn fighting and self-defense, that I should immediately quit Aikido and devote myself to martial arts which are already good at fighting and self-defense. Now I could see the truth behind his words immediately. But obviously I was not ready to make such a big decision right away. But then after I finished filming the Aikido versus MMA second sparring, I couldn't stop thinking about Matt's words. And then one night when I was teaching an Aikido class, during it I started to feel like a complete imposter. Even though I made it very clear to all of my students students that my Aikido is not about self-defense. And even though every time a new student walked in through my dojo doors, I would immediately tell them that this is not the place to learn self-defense or fighting, teaching that class, I could not shake the feeling that I'm lying to my students. After finishing teaching this class, I felt so conflicted inside that I just had to go by the lake to take a walk and clear my mind. And during this walk, I asked myself what would be the best thing for me to do now. And suddenly I had a clear answer. I realized that it is time for me to close my dojo. I actually came to a conclusion that I would like to have an MMA cage fight at least once in my life. There was one more thing I needed to do, and that was to meet Tadas, the pro MMA fighter, and to spar with him and to see how much I really progressed.
If you want to try out Raid and receive various bonuses, scan the QR code or click on the link in the description.